name is James Bradley. I am a certified public accountant in Claxton, Georgia. I have been practicing since 1992. I am also a QuickBooks Pro Advisor, and I've been one for probably 10 or 12 years. I love the program, and I think you are going to like it, or something like this program as well that can help you. The first thing we want to do is move around in QuickBooks a little bit. I'm going to show you the navigation screen, the home page. We're going to record some expenses, record some income, have some miscellaneous things I want to talk to you about the program, and then some parting thoughts. So let's get underway. Okay, so this is the first page that you're going to see each time that you come in and open QuickBooks Online. It's the home page, and it has a very quick summary of what your business is doing, where you're sitting right now. Up here at the top, we have, and you'll see this on many of the screens that we go to, you have this yellowish, orange, red, and green bar that's at the top. We call it the money bar. And on this particular screen, it gives you information about your income and about your invoices, the money that your customers owe you. So you see that there are $5,282 worth of invoices that are open. $1,526 of those are overdue, and $3,136 you've collected in the last 30 days or so. So it gives you just a very quick summary of your income, also your expenses here, $2,186 that you've spent, you've incurred in expenses in the last 30 days. And over here you have the detail of that. And on this colored circle right here, you could actually double click on one of these sections on this circle and get down to the detail of what those expenses are. Up here in the top right hand corner, you have your bank accounts, the summary of information, basically your balances in those accounts. You can have checking, savings accounts, however many you need. You can also hook up your credit card accounts, and each one of these, if you have online access to your bank account, the online banking in QuickBooks Online is awesome. It will sync up with your accounts once or twice a day, or more often if you go in and do it manually, and it'll download all the transactions that have gone through those accounts so that you can see what's cleared the bank, see what's going to clear the bank, etc. Over here on the left is our navigation bar. You see right now we're in the highlighted section is the client homes, which is where we are, our home screen. You also have a window, a navigation access to your customers window, your vendors list, your employees and transactions related to them, transactions that you want to perform, and we'll see that in just a moment. Here's your reports list and page, and also if you collect sales tax for your business, QuickBooks Online will help you collect that sales tax, calculate it, and print reports that'll help you file those forms at the end of each month or quarter, or how often you prepare your sales tax returns. So the next thing we want to do is we want to go from the home page to the customers page. All right, so here we are now on your customer window. This is your customer list, the list of all the customers that you've set up. QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop as well. Most accounting projects, programs are driven by lists. And this is one of the lists in QuickBooks Online, your customer list. And here you see all of the customers that you have. You see that you have their contact information that's already set up. You've already set up this list. Up here again is our money bar on the customer screen. You have some estimates and unbilled activities. You have invoices. Again, you have those open invoices, and you have the overdue invoices. And again, that same information we saw on the previous screen, $3,136 that's been paid in the last 30 days. One neat thing about the money bar, I told you that you could drill down and get more information behind each of those colors. So if we click on the open invoices right here, we're going to get another list. So let's go ahead and do that. So you see now that we've clicked on the open invoices bar up here in the money bars. We're still in the customers window, but the list has changed slightly down here. So now instead of all of our customers, we have customers who only have open invoices. A lot of these are overdue, unfortunately, but this has been sorted because we clicked on this portion of the money bar. We can do the same thing with any of these colors here, and from this screen as well, we can come in and receive payments, send reminders, create statements, etc. Any customer activities, then we can do that from this screen. So next, what we want to do is go and look at another similar screen for our vendors. All right, so here again we have the vendor screen, and it is very similar in look to the customer screen, except of course instead of customers we now have all of your vendors. Again, with all of their contact information, you have built this list as you have been working with QuickBooks, so all of their information is tied here to this vendor screen. And again, if we come up here to the money bar and we click on open bills, these are bills that you owe to your customers. If we click on that, then we get another sorted list like we did with the customers. So let's do that. All right, so we have clicked on the Open Bills section of the money bar on the vendor screen. And again, you see it's the same list, except we don't have all of our vendors here now. We just have those that we owe. We have those who have outstanding bills that we need to pay. So again, just clicking on different sections of the screen of the money bar can get you different information, sorted information that is more pertinent maybe to the decisions you're trying to make. Also over here again on the vendor screen, just like on the customer screen, you can click on this drop down menu here and you can make payments, you can email your vendors, various transactions that you can perform related to vendors. So that's a quick look at how to navigate around in QuickBooks Online. Now, the next thing we want to do is look at how to record expenses in QuickBooks Online. There are two ways to do that. If we're working on the accrual method, then you need to enter bills in QuickBooks Online. Bills are entered when the expense is incurred before cash is paid. A very simple example is your utility bill. You get the utility bill at the end of the month after you've already used the electricity, and chances are you don't pay it on the same day that you get it in the mail. You put it in a drawer somewhere and you pay it on the 10th of the next month. So you can enter that into QuickBooks Online, and on the date that you receive it or the date of the bill, and QuickBooks Online will do the accrual accounting for you. The check is recorded when cash is paid at the time the expense is incurred. So for example, you go down to the grocery store, or you go down to the feed store, and you actually take them a check or swipe your debit card, however you do it, then the expense is paid at the same time that it's incurred. So you would enter a check then in QuickBooks Online. So now let us look at entering a bill. So with all of these transactions, we're going to come back to the home page, which is a natural place to start. So we're back at our home page, and up here at the top of the home page, you see this plus sign. QuickBooks Online is made by a company called Intuit, and their programs are very intuitive. So if you want to add a transaction, then a great place to start is to come up to the plus sign to add a transaction at the top of the screen. So we'll click on that. So when we click on the plus sign, the addition sign at the top of the screen, then we get another drop-down menu that comes out where we can create transactions for customers, vendors, employees, and other types of transactions. A bill is a vendor transaction, so we come to our vendors list here, and there is bill, so we're just simply going to click on bill. All right, so when we click on the link to add a bill, we are brought to this form, the bill entry window. And this is a form in QuickBooks where you are going to take the information from the physical bill, that piece of paper that you have on your desk. You're going to take that information and transfer it now, input it into this form in QuickBooks. So the first thing, obviously, we need to identify the vendor. You saw the vendor list that's already in there. You click on the drop-down list and you select the vendor, and it will populate the mailing address and the contact information that's later going to print out on your check when you print the check and put it in the mail to them. If you have certain payment terms with them, maybe you get a discount if you pay in 10 days or 20 days or past 30 days, you get penalties on that, then you can set the terms up. The bill date obviously is coming off the bill that you now have in your hand, and based on the terms and the date, the due date automatically populates. Now down here is where all the accounting is done, and this is all the accounting that you will need to know. The chart of accounts has already been set up for you. So you have set up in the beginning, or someone has helped you set up the expense accounts, the income accounts, the asset and liability accounts, the equity accounts. All of that list is already set up and been prepared for you. So when you come to enter this bill, all you need to do is select from that list the type of expense that this bill is for. So you have the utilities telephone from the telephone company, obviously. There's a brief description that is here. You don't need that, but sometimes it's helpful to put a note in there of some kind. You enter the amount of the bill and you're done. So down in the bottom right-hand corner, come and click Save and Close. So now I want to start letting you see the power of QuickBooks and what it's doing for you. You have taken information from a bill that you received in the mail and you have entered it into a form in QuickBooks, and a very easily readable form in QuickBooks, and you saved it and you closed it. Now, I want to show you here on our vendors list, we've seen this list before, but now Cal Telephone is not only listed here, but also the bill that we owe to them is listed. So now, let's say it's the 10th of the next month, it's time to pay the bill. We come back to our vendors list, we come down to Cal Telephone, and we click on Make Payment. And here we are on the bill payment screen. The vendor is listed. Your checking account, which you can choose each time. If you have multiple accounts, you can choose each time you write a bill payment out or a check out, you can choose which account you're writing it from. Again, it brings over the mailing address to print on the check, and here is the bill. If we want to pay this bill, we simply put a check in the box, and let's say we don't want to pay the entire bill, we just want to pay $50, then we can come over here and enter, override the original amount and put in $50 if we just want to pay that, or we can pay the entire bill. Once we've entered in all of the payment information that we want to, then again we come down, we can print our check at the bottom of the screen. You can print the check, put it in the mail, send it to the vendor. If you don't want to print the check right now, you can batch print checks later. Click Save and Close and you're done with the bill. Now this screen is another example of what QuickBooks is doing for you in the background. All of the accounting has taken place in the background. All you have done is taken the information from a bill that you received in the mail, you entered it on the bill date, 10 days later, 20 days later, you wrote the check and you paid the bill. That's what you're already doing, and that's all that you have done in QuickBooks. You're simply now, instead of putting it in your check register, writing it out, you're putting it into this accounting software. So here's a transaction report that shows our checking account transactions that we wrote the check on June 11th, that bill payment check, and it has reduced your bank balance. It did the accounting for you. All right. Also on another transaction report, this is our transaction report for the telephone bill, telephone expenses. We see the bill was recorded on April 30th and the amount $74.36. Now, if you were to print out a profit and loss, that $74.36 would show up on your profit and loss statement as of April 30th, 2014. Now, I want you to notice, all right, this is where Van's been talking about accrual versus cash accounting. This is an accrual basis report. Notice that our bill, our expense, is recorded on April 30th, the date of the bill. Our bank account, however, was not affected until the date we wrote the check. In this case, it was June 11th. So this report is an accrual basis report. Both of these reports are accrual basis reports. Now, I'm going to go to one more screen just to show you the difference between accrual and cash basis. Okay, so basically we have the same report here, but notice that this is now a cash basis report. Our check date is obviously the same because that's the date that we wrote the check, but down here the date has changed for the expense because on cash basis the expense is not recorded until the check is written. So again, all you didn't have to go through the manipulation. You simply put in the bill, wrote the check. QuickBooks has done all of the cash to accrual accounting for you in the background. All right, now so remember there were two ways that we talked about to record expenses in QuickBooks. The first was the bill, we've looked at that. So now let's go and look at entering a check. So again, I remind you, checks are cash basis accounting. So you enter a check, you don't enter a bill and then a bill payment check, you just simply enter a check when the cash is paid at the time the expense is incurred. So we're coming back to our home screen where we started. We're coming back to add a transaction at the top of the screen. And we get the create transaction screen. Again, a check is a vendor transaction, so we're coming to the vendors list. We're going to click on check. And we come to a create check screen, which again, we're going to select our vendor, the checking account from which we are writing the check, fills in the mailing address if we have put it into our list. We enter in the date, come down and select the proper account from the expense account, the chart of accounts list, put in a description if you like, enter in the amount. We can come down again and print the check from this screen, or we can batch print checks later. If you're done, you can click on save and close, or if not, then there is an option for save and new to go to the next check that you're going to print. And here we have now an example of the accounting that QuickBooks is doing for you in the background. This is the journal entry from the check that you just wrote. We decrease our checking account balance. We increase the expense account. Again, QuickBooks has done the accounting for you in the background. So the first thing we'll look at in recording income is how to record an invoice. The first step in adding an invoice, again, is to come up to the top of your home page where the plus sign is to add the invoice. So we click on that. And again, from there, we get our create transactions window. Invoices are customer transactions. So we come to the customer section. The first selection is invoice. We click on that. Now we're going to move from recording expenses to recording income. And in QuickBooks, there are basically three ways to record cash inflows or revenues. The first way is the accrual basis, invoices, when sales are made before cash is received. In other words, you have someone, a customer, come to your place of business, you sell them an item, you hand them an invoice, they take your item, and 20 days later, they pay you for that item, you get a check in the mail. That's an invoice. That's accrual accounting. Sales receipt is when cash is received at the time of sale. In other words, in that same transaction, they don't walk off with an invoice. They walk off with your item that you sold them, and you have cash in your pocket or in your drawer. Deposits are recorded when the sale is made and no invoice or sales receipt is needed by the customer. Deposits are also, they come in handy with loan proceeds, making a deposit of loan proceeds or insurance proceeds, things that aren't necessarily revenue generating, other income type items. So the first thing we'll look at in recording income is how to record an invoice. The first step in adding an invoice, again, is to come up to the top of your home page where the plus sign is to add the invoice. So we click on that. And again, from there, we get our create transactions window. Invoices are customer transactions. So we come to the customer section. The first selection is invoice. We click on that. And this is the invoice creation window. Here, this list is a list of our customers. Again, we've set that up in previous steps in setting up QuickBooks. When we select the customer from the list, it populates the billing address, the terms that we have with that customer. Again, we are entering a transaction into this form. The date of the transaction is self-explanatory. The due date calculates based on the customer terms and the invoice date that you enter. And again, here's the accounting down here. Under the product or service, you've set up another list of items that you sell. In QuickBooks Online, they're called items. So you set up that list, and from that list, you select the item that we're going to put on this invoice that this customer is purchasing from us. So in this case, we're selling hay. The description is already built into the list. The rate per item is built into the list. All we have to do is enter in the quantity. In this case, it's 100, and the calculation is made, $7,500 for this invoice. If this were a sales taxable item, then it would be marked here in this column, in this checkbox, and the sales tax would calculate down here. Right now, this is not a sales taxable item. It's not a taxable transaction, so the balance due on this invoice is $7,500. Now down here at the bottom, again, we can print or preview this transaction. We can also email, save and send. You see is the command down here. We can email that transaction. Say they phoned in an order of some kind. We can go ahead and email that invoice to them, and they'll have it in their inbox before they get back home. So in this case, we're going to click on save. And here we have again the example of the power of QuickBooks. It does the accounting for you. You have filled in a form, that invoice screen that we just left. You filled in that form with the proper information, and QuickBooks has now adjusted your balance sheet. Your accounts receivable balance includes now that $7,500 that we just put on that invoice. All right, so here's a screenshot now of your customer list again. It's been updated. This is the customer that we just sold the hay to. We entered that invoice in here. So now they have 2 open invoices. Apparently they had one in here before we just entered that $7,500, but their balance has been increased by that invoice that we just entered on the previous screen. So let's say now 30 days later, 15 days later, whenever we get a check in the mail for this customer, from this customer, and we come over here back to this customer window, we come over here and click on receive payment. And when we click on receive payment from the customer's window, we get a receive payment window. It lists the customer name that is already there, the payment date that you're receiving this payment, how did you receive, or where do you want to deposit it, rather, that bank account is sitting there. You can also enter in a check or in a check number here of your customer that they sent you for reference later. Down here, we're going to see all of our outstanding transactions. Remember, we have 2 invoices. This is the one that we just entered. So we're going to let them pay that one by putting a check in the box here. Again, if they paid less than the full amount, we could put in $500 or $1,000 or whatever it is, and it would keep up with the balance on that particular invoice. So we're going to now click Save and New on this transaction. And just to come back to the customer window, after we've recorded the payment, now that customer's balance has been decreased by that payment. But we also see that we have another open invoice that's older than the one we just paid. So we can come over here and send them a reminder. We can send them an email, or we can simply, we have their telephone number, we can pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, where's the payment on this particular invoice, and find out what's going on. So again, QuickBooks is keeping up not only with the accounting work, but it's keeping up with the balances that people owe you and that you owe to others as well. And again, we have a transaction report that just is an example of the accounting that QuickBooks is doing in the background for you. This is your checking account. Your balance has been affected by that $7,500 that we just deposited. So we've looked at entering invoices. Now we want to move on to entering sales receipts. And remember that sales receipts are recorded when cash is received at the time of the sale. So again, to add a transaction, we're coming back to the home page. We're clicking on the plus sign. And we get, again, our Create Transactions window that comes down. Customer transaction of sales receipt, we click on that. And it brings up a sales receipt form where, again, we're going to select the customer. It already knows the billing address that it's going to populate from the list that we've created. We're entering in a sales receipt date. Down here, of course, is where we do the accounting. Now, one thing that's different on this screen from the invoice screen is you're actually receiving the cash when you effect the sale. So we're going to have to choose a deposit to account. What bank account are we going to deposit this to when we receive the cash? So that's just slightly different from the invoice. Here we have, again, we select our product or service or item that we're going to sell. We enter in the quantity. The rate is already built in. The calculation is made. We can print and preview this, or we can again email it to the customer and it'll be there before they get home. And again, here's a transaction report to show you the accounting that's going on in the background. You're filling out forms. QuickBooks is doing accounting. So remember, a sales receipt is cash basis. So we received the cash, so we deposited it into the checking account on the same date that we record the income, and QuickBooks has done that accounting for you again in the background. So we've entered invoices, we've entered sales receipts, and now we're going to look at how to enter a deposit. And remember, we simply enter a deposit directly into the bank account when a sale is made and no invoice or sales receipt is needed by the customer, or in instances of loan proceeds being deposited or perhaps insurance proceeds being deposited. So when we record a deposit, as we've done in the past, we come to our home screen, we click on the plus sign at the top, and we get our Create Transactions window. Bank deposits are other transactions in QuickBooks Online. So under the Other column, we select Bank Deposit, and we get a deposit form. We select the bank account that we're depositing the money into, the date, Who did we receive it from? What type of income is it? Again, this is your chart of accounts, your general ledger that's already been set up. Method is by check, reference number, the amount. We're done. Click Save and New. All right, so I want to take a few moments to discuss some miscellaneous items with you, just to give you an idea again about what QuickBooks will do. First thing we're going to look at is payroll and 1099s. Then I'm going to talk for just a moment about working with an accountant, and then talk to you about the cost of the program. For those of you who have employees in your operation and or vendors to whom you need to issue 1099s, QuickBooks will help you handle this. QuickBooks will help you calculate withholdings for federal, state, and local payroll taxes. It will also help you make your federal, state, and local payroll tax deposits. Many of you who have employees are now making your tax deposits either through the electronic federal tax payment system with the IRS, Georgia Tax Center with the state of Georgia, or another state agency. QuickBooks will collect those taxes for you, let you know when they are due, and it will effect the electronic transfer from your account to the government agency's account and help you make those tax deposits directly from the program. You can enter payroll for hourly and salaried employees via timesheets or directly on a payroll check. It will also fill in quarterly and annual payroll tax returns, including Forms W-2 and Forms 1099. The cost of payroll is an added subscription on top of the QuickBooks monthly subscription that we'll talk about in a moment. Generally, you can get a 30-day free trial followed by 2 months at a flat rate of $9.99. After that, QuickBooks Payroll is generally $20 per month plus $2 per month per employee. In other words, if you have 10 employees, the employee charge is $20 per month for the employee side, $20 per month for the flat rate, so it's $40 per month, regardless of whether you pay them weekly or daily or just once a month. Now I want to take just a few moments to talk to you about working with an accountant or a bookkeeper or a tax preparer. With QuickBooks Online, working with an accountant is one of the nice features of having an online accounting program. You can invite up to 2 accounting or bookkeeping firms to have access to your company data live and online with no additional charges for you or your accountant. So that comes in handy if you need someone to help train you on the program, to correct errors, to plan for taxes or loans or just business management. They can come right into the same data that you see online, the same database. They can make journal entries and they can advise you based on the information that's in there. Also, in tax preparation, some accountants actually use Intuit tax preparation software, which they can then directly sync with your company file, which saves them time and data entry. It's less work, it's less money for them and you. And of course, I know that one thing that many people are concerned about when we're talking about accounting software is, what does it cost? There are actually 3 versions of QuickBooks Online. The first one is QuickBooks Simple Start. It's actually free unless you add on payroll, and then you have to pay for the payroll subscription. The 2 that I have here, the 2 paid plans, QuickBooks Online Essentials is $26.95 a month, at least as of the time that we did this video and recording. If you want payroll with that, then it's $65.95 a month, plus the employee charges that you're going to have. There are always discounts available on any of these versions. The QuickBooks Online Plus, which has more of a robust inventory feature. Basically, most all of you are going to be able to use either one of these programs. I suggest starting with Essentials or even Simple Start and going up if you need to later. QuickBooks Online Plus is $39.95 per month, $78.95 per month with payroll, and again, discounts are available on all of these versions. Now, before we wrap this part up, I just want to share a couple of parting thoughts with you. First of all, with QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop, any accounting software, setup is crucial. When you're setting up your chart of accounts, your payroll, your vendors, your customers, sales tax, any of those lists that we've been talking about, the entire program is built on those lists. So if you have errors in those lists when you set them up, then those type of errors will replicate themselves very quickly And although you can correct any transaction just about, those errors will replicate very quickly, and it'll be time consuming to go back and correct some of these types of errors if they start in the list at setup. So find some help. If you're not familiar with accounting and accounting principles, find some help at least in setting up these lists that are going to be the foundation of your accounting software. You can consult with a QuickBooks Pro advisor or accountant to determine which QuickBooks Online subscription will work best for you. I've provided a website there for you to find a QuickBooks Pro advisor, or you can simply go to Google or your search engine and type in QuickBooks Help, and then type in your zip code, and I guarantee you're going to find a QuickBooks Pro advisor within driving distance that you can pick up the telephone and call and talk to them to get some help on this. And I have provided my information here as well. You can call me or email me. I would love to help you if you need some help in setup or deciding which version to use, or if you'd like some help in trying to find a reputable assistant, consultant that can help you with QuickBooks. It's been a pleasure to be with you today and to walk you through this process of QuickBooks Online. Good luck to you in your future endeavors, and God bless.